You don't know why?
A little bit.
Coochie coo.
Well, I don't even want to say technical issues because it appears to be working just fine. It's just a little slow. It's a special computer.
It's not a special computer. It's a good computer. What are you talking about?
It's special.
You're an asshole. Better than your computer.
That's not true in the slightest.
Yeah, well, where's your computer?
It's
Your computer
stuck in one place because it's not a laptop.
Because it's gay. It's a big gay computer.
What does my computer's sexuality have to do with this?
I don't know, man. Listen, I feel like if it wasn't gay, it'd be it wouldn't be so queer about being out and about, right? It's being real queer about it. Happy Easter, everybody. Happy Good Friday.
Right. It is Easter, Good Friday.
One dude's worst day made everybody else have a good day. So thank you to the Big J man upstairs. Thank you very much. If you
Big J, we love you.
Yeah. If you believe in all that.
Or not. I mean,
whether
Jesus
or not,
was a cool dude.
Yeah,
you know, if you
whether you believe he was the son of God or not, he was still a dude.
Or, whether he even existed.
Well, no, he existed.
But I think some people argue that he didn't still. Even though there is a lot of documentation. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons to believe that there was a Jesus.
Exactly. But that's silly to say he didn't exist.
Yeah.
I mean, you could debate all you want, all the different...
All the miracles.
Yeah, things like that.
The resurrection. You could question all that, sure.
He could have been the first like Houdini. Could have been like a sleight of hand kind of guy or something like that.
Yeah.
Back in the time where it didn't exist, so people saw it.
You know what they used to do? Ninjas, to sort of run on water. They would set up. It was an escape mechanism. So like they'd sneak into a place, right? So they're gonna say infiltrate a palace or something. They sneak in, and then over the water they would put like these rods in the water that were like just below the surface, which were the top, so that when they were fleeing, they could just run across the water, or at least that's what it would look like.
Yeah.
And then obviously you don't, because they know where they put it and sort of the pattern and everything, so they can go and you can't follow them. You're like, what the hell is going on? He's running on the water.
Right.
And so maybe Jesus did that. Who knows?
You never know, man. Anything's possible.
Really, he could have actually just walked on water, and all this stuff could be perfectly true.
Maybe he was an alien. Who knows, man? Who knows? You gotta be open. You gotta be open to different things.
Well, I mean, the Bible kind of mentions aliens, so maybe Jesus and aliens were part of it all. It's like a grand
Lick
conspiracy.
your lip. Holy shit, you got a little drip on your lip. You were so...
yeah.
You were so into that beer there.
I was making out with that beer.
Yeah.
So you haven't been following this Elon Musk stuff at all?
Nope.
Not at all.
Head in the sand, buddy. Head in the sand. This makes our conversations better.
Yeah, so...
Because you're like the guy that comes in with some information, and I'm like the guy that just fucking shuts up and lets you tell it.
You're just the idiot who doesn't know what's going on.
I'm the idiot.
I'm just here, guys.
I hear some things, but I haven't been in touch.
Okay, so I've got a couple threads to pull. I guess maybe it might serve a purpose to pull up.
Tired today, man.
This one first.
Tired on this Good Friday.
We talked about it last week where Elon Musk bought 9.2% of Twitter.
Right.
And became the single largest shareholder. And at that time, there was talks that he was going to join the board.
Well, they offered him a board seat.
Yeah.
He turned it down.
And but it was something that they were communicating together for a while, and it sounded like that. But it was the terms of the board seat that made him turn him down.
Yeah.
Because they were trying to basically make him commit to not buy more shares. And it's like, oh, well, no. And they also weren't going to, like, work with him, or at least that's the message that he got, that they just weren't going to work with him to implement the changes that he thought needed to be implemented.
Right.
And so he just said, he didn't join the board, and he just turned around and he made an offer for Twitter.
He did classic Elon.
Yeah, just to buy the company outright.
He's like a big fuck you kind of guy. He's like, oh, you don't want to play
this is a $43 billion offer.
That's a $43 billion fuck you. That's amazing.
Insane.
I know. That's awesome.
And what's insane is that, like, he has that, like, he probably doesn't have the cash. It sounds like he's probably, it's gonna be financed.
Sure.
But he more than has the assets to finance this deal. Like, he could probably finance this deal if he had, like, at $43 billion, he could probably have like $2 billion to put up front, and finance the deal without a net worth of like 300 billion.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the
Yeah.
way these sorts of financing things usually work. And so this is still like what does it come out to? Like 20%, 15% of his net worth that he's offering here. That's insane.
Yeah.
Just to think that a human being can do that blows my mind.
Yeah.
Just at that level, you know what I mean? It's like, holy shit, what's going on?
Yeah.
But so he's offered $54.20 a share. He had to put $4.20 in there, of course, which is he mentioned it's a 50% premium on his cost basis. So he bought it like $35 a share, and it's like another 30% or something from where the price is right now. Or no, it was like I don't know what it came out to. It's currently at like $45 per share. Work it out yourself. And now Twitter has come back with a poison pill is what they're calling this sort of thing, because and so this raises so many implications that I have a lot of things to say about it. But I'll switch the screen over here. I got this Twitter thread pulled up from this guy Trung Fan on Twitter. Never heard of him. Just saw that this thread and thought that it kind of illustrates everything that's going on, and he kind of compares it to something that happened in the past. So what he's saying is Twitter just adopted a poison pill in response to Elon's $43 billion takeover bid. Netflix did a similar maneuver in 2012 to thwart Carl Icahn, I think. I don't know if that's the right way to say that name, but and he talks about how that plays out. First, what is a poison pill? It's another name for a shareholder rights plan and a corporate tactic invented during the wild leverage buyout days of the 1980s. The move allows corporate boards to defend against unwanted takeover attempts and protect shareholders. Anti-takeover defense includes issuing of preferred stocks with special rights to the board, control of shareholder meeting schedule, and option for existing shareholders to buy more stock at a discount, thereby diluting stake of the party trying the hostile or unsolicited takeover. In 2012, Netflix's stock was struggling. Famed corporate raider Carl Icahn built up 9.98% position in Netflix and said the company should be acquired by Microsoft or Amazon. Netflix adopted a poison pill that would kick in if an individual acquired 10% or an institution acquired 20%. Netflix management wasn't interested in getting acquired, and if Icahn triggered the poison pill, Netflix would flood the market with shares and dilute his stake. This was Icahn's response, and then we don't really need to necessarily, well, maybe we do. He said that any poison pill without a shareholder vote is an example of poor corporate governance. He called the 10% threshold remarkably low, discriminatory, and particularly troubling. Icahn never did acquire more shares. Instead, he started selling just as Netflix's stock price recovered. In the end, Netflix canceled the poison pill in 2013, 2 years before it was supposed to expire. Twitter's current poison pill will go into effect if a shareholder acquires 15% or more of the company. The plan expires in April of 2023. Elon currently has 9.1%. Here's what would happen if he crossed 15%. In the event that the rights become exercisable due to the triggering ownership threshold being crossed, each right will entitle its holder, other than the person, entity, or group triggering the rights plan, whose rights will become void and will not be exercisable, to purchase at the then current exercise price additional shares of common stock having a then current market value of twice the exercise price of the right. So I think that's you get to buy them at half price.
Yeah.
Not sure what happens next, but definitely follow for other business breakdowns. Now he's just plugging his thread here. Then I don't know that it necessarily. That is just a funny meme. We'll leave that up for right there.
Yeah,
that's for sport if he gets it. So Twitter's shooting themselves in the foot here on so many levels and exposing that they might actually genuinely, in the most literal way, be evil. because it's not just like, I don't see any circumstance that justifies avoiding this, given Twitter's current position in that they're kind of failing as a public company, without like having serious ulterior motives. Like, they know that they control public discourse, and they want that control over public discourse, and they know that they're using it to manipulate people, and they're using it to influence elections globally. They're using it in a very immoral way, in my opinion, and I think that they want that, and they want to avoid selling it because they don't want Twitter to be free, because they don't want they want the control. They don't want alternative viewpoints to be put out there, and they want to be able to stifle that.
I would agree. Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, what else to say to that? Yeah, I would say pretty much the same. Yeah, it seems like why else? I don't know. I don't see any other logical reason to stop. It seems like a fair offer. Why would you stop this if this didn't go against maybe the core direction of the company, right? Whoever's running this company, right? And it seems and I'm not saying Jack Dorsey was a great CEO, but he was better.
A little bit weird.
He was better than this current one. And I think he had a better direction for
Is
Twitter
that even fair to say? I mean, at first he had this new guy's really only been there for we're on months now.
Well,
and so Dorsey did
4 months, 5 months.
Yeah, so Dorsey did turn Twitter into a nose.
That's true. I guess maybe yeah. I think it started with the whole kicking Trump off. I think once they showed
Alex Jones.
Well, I don't know.
Alex Jones was the canary in the coal mine.
Yeah, but
that was them testing censorship, and nobody.
Yeah, but I think
cared, and
I think
then it escalated from there.
I think it's the reason why it was Trump is because when you kick a sitting president off of a platform like that, holy shit! Like, you're really making a statement.
Yeah,
like you kick a guy like an Alex Jones off. I mean, he's controversial at best anyway. It's a statement
to their sort of their goals.
That's what I mean. It's like, but you're just saying where your allegiances lie with a company that shouldn't have any allegiances. You just should be a platform
at that level.
That's what I mean. You should just be a platform. I mean, if he's saying stuff,
service too, which is why Dorsey's a weird one, because you can go back and watch the Joe Rogan podcast where it was Joe and Tim and Jack Dorsey and a lawyer from Twitter, and they were talking, and Tim Pool basically pointed out to him, like, your rules are ideologically biased. Like, the whole concept of making it a bannable offense for misgendering somebody is completely one-sided, because for one side doesn't give a shit, you know, like, oh, whatever, you called me the wrong gender, I don't care. And then one side is like, it's actual murder. Like, they have some very, very extreme language that they'll use for this. Like, it's actual violence to misgender somebody, and Twitter is like siding with that, and catering to those desires. And they sat there with a straight face and had this pointed out to him, where he's like, I don't see how this is biased politically at all. And Tim Pool even sort of brought up accounts of. Well, he didn't bring up the specific accounts. He mentioned that there were accounts of like Antifa types sort of advocating violence and organizing these sort of violent protests on Twitter that Twitter wasn't cracking down on, even though they're saying, no, we're not allowing this stuff as their defense for banning sort of more right-wing individuals. And then now you have Jack Dorsey. I don't have the tweets pulled up, but Jack Dorsey was like tweeting in favor of free speech. And he even tweeted that like he recognizes the role that he's played in stifling it, and he regrets that. So like he might be on a redemption arc. He's a weird cat.
I don't know, man. I don't know what the play is here. It's usually just money, but in this case, it's like
they're turning down money. And that's the other thing that was pointed out, is that I think Snapchat has a lower user base and is more profitable than Twitter.
Really?
So like that's kind of how poorly Twitter's doing as a company.
Snapchat.
Yeah, but it's not, it's just a, comparing two companies. You have
who
one
knew that was
company
even a
that
thing
has
anymore?
that's the
I know,
thing.
kidding.
And they make more money than Twitter apparently.
That's hilarious.
With fewer people. So
Yeah.
it's like, what is Twitter doing? They're failing. They're kicking their people off the platform, and
Well, you're segregating a lot of the population, right? When you openly show that you're biased,
yeah,
but you're supposed to be an information platform.
and a conversation platform,
Exactly.
a platform for dialogue.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is
That's
what
more
made it what it is.
Sorry, correct. Yeah, that's
and then
more
someone
of it.
comes along and is like, yeah, we're going to go back in that direction. And now they're like clawing tooth and nail at their shareholders' detriment. Because Twitter has only briefly traded above that $54 price range in its history. And it doesn't show any signs of like going up there anytime soon.
I wonder if they could do something where they sort of like categorize, like for example, like our channel here, right? If we just categorize our channel here as an opinion, like opinion piece or something like that, right? Where we say, look, we're not really, we might throw out stuff that's factual, but at the same time, most of it's based on our biased opinions for things, and so you take it that way, and it's flagged in that way, right? If they did that maybe with Twitter, where they said, okay, well, here's a news, this account here is set up as a news account, and anything that they say has to be factually verifiable, essentially, right? And then you have others that are set up as just opinion or even like comedy or that kind of thing. So even if they do put factual stuff on it, it's not, because the whole channel or the whole thread or whoever or the whole user is set up as, say, what did I just say? As non-factual, right, or whatever. Then they could just say, look, hey, it doesn't. Then whatever you say, it doesn't matter. You can just kind of say what you want. But the ones that are actually like news or factual and stuff, they have to be really fucking careful with what they say. They have to be able to verify, show sources, and all this kind of stuff, and none of this bullshit where they go, oh, they have these hidden sources or any of that kind of stuff. So that would sort of get away from this idea of the censoring and all that shit, because it almost self-censors itself. Because you go on this thing, oh, this person's thread is a opinion piece type thing, right?
No, it doesn't do that.
I know it doesn't do it. I'm saying if they set it up that way.
Yeah. It still doesn't do it.
Why not?
Because people are gonna know where the factual information is. So,
not really. Right now, you can go to fucking like somebody goes to Fox News or something, right? And you're looking at like you see it all the time with, say, someone like Tucker Carlson. Most of his shit is just opinion piece. A lot of what he says is based on fact, but it's really it's basically an opinion column, essentially, when he's doing his news piece. It's not like he's just broadcasting news. Like, when you watch it, if anybody that actually watches it knows that it's not like that. Like, news to me would be something that's just very vanilla. You just hear it. They're just saying, this is what's happening. Here's the video.
Yeah, but again, you're like, what they want to do is they want to cut the tongue out of anybody saying certain things.
No, I agree. I know that.
And so by labeling it doesn't change anything. You have this account is labeled as satire, but they're posting facts. People are going to know that, and they're going to know that, okay, I can go to this source. I can go to Alex's page, and even though it's labeled as satire, I know that he's just posting actual facts on topics that, maybe you're trying to mask that you're having these conversations about these topics that the mainstream doesn't want you to talk about. People are still going to know and go there. And that's the problem that they're having now. Like, they can't, or at least they can for the normies, they can censor, but for anybody that wants to know what's going on, they can't. They can't stop.
You're going to pick your source or where you want to get your information from. What I'm saying, though, is on the platform, as far as then having clear sort of, if you had the type of account where you want it to be known as factual sort of news information type thing, then you would have to actually show all the sources and stuff. Other than that, it would be like it's just opinion shit, or like you say, satire or whatever, right? But then those ones that are in that sort of group, the rules are very strict for those ones. The rest of it's just, like anybody can say in a joke whatever the fuck you really want to say. I mean, bad jokes exist all over the place. People make them all the time. But it doesn't mean, just because I make a bad joke about something doesn't mean I'm a bad person or I think something directly. Like for example, when we first started the podcast, I was saying that your computer's gay. It has nothing to do with real sexuality. It's a fucking computer I'm talking about. Like, anybody who's watching, if they really thought that I was trying to make some kind of slight against gay, well, they're just stupid. They're just stupid people, right? You understand what I mean?
I don't agree that they're necessarily stupid.
Well, then why would they say why would they say anything other than the fact that I'm just using a silly word to describe your computer that has nothing to do with real
rage bait for clicks and views, and just so this idea, oh, look at Alex, he's disparaging the gays, he's a far right extremist, to kind of sow division along the political lines.
Well, then they're stupid.
No, that's. I think the last 10 years has shown that that's pretty effective political strategy, at least in the current environment in the Western world.
Well,
it's gotten them a lot of power, a lot of influence, a lot of money in certain cases. I mean, the people that go along with it, they're fucking stupid. But that's what I've been saying for a while, is like the left. Well,
when I say stupid, I don't mean in the literal sense stupid. I just mean they're fucking just dumbass type people, right? Like, and you know that they're like, anybody who doesn't take a joke well, you just whether they're
the question is whether or not they're genuine and they're not taking the joke.
That's what I'm saying. That's
because some people are very. There are the people that are genuine in that, and then there are people that are not genuine just because they see it as an opportunity. To be a victim.
And that's what I mean. If it doesn't matter, but if you look at those people either way, you'd say, all right, either this person didn't get the joke, or they're an idiot. They're an asshole.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying about the left for a while. Is that it's basically, especially just because of what they're doing on Twitter and everything, they're just kicking everybody out that like isn't a Marxist. Basically, if you're not. You don't even have to be anti-Marxist now. You just have to be not a Marxist, and the left.
I gotta stop you for a second because it's fucking me up. What happened to your ear?
Oh, it's just a fucking infection that kind of the fucking earwax will like go out and dry up on there, and then when it gets peeled off, it causes scabbing and bleeding.
Oh shit, balls! Yeah, that's a situation, man.
Yeah. It's improving.
Sorry to cut you off.
The left is it's stupid people being run by evil people. And so if you're on the left, I think you are, by definition, you are in one of those two categories, because everybody else, you look at people like Jimmy Dore and Joe Rogan, they have been exiled from the left. They are considered far right if you go to the right places, right? And these are people who are very, very left wing by even 2010 standards, and so. In order to hold on to that label now, I think you have to be stupid or evil, because you're ultimately a communist, and you kind of see what's going on, and you kind of you think that these are effective tactics that are going to lead you to whatever political aims you're hoping for. What, I don't know.
If you get 20 really loud people and really fucking like unhinged people, and you put them in a crowd of 1,000, they can do a lot. Like, if they're organized to some degree, you know what I mean? They can do a lot, and they can get a lot of attention, and they can scare people and all that shit.
I think you framed it slightly wrong.
Well, hold on. But the difference, my point though, the difference now with like in real, right? When you have a few people that are like loud, like people like, for example, when the whole abortion push was happening, the anti-abortion push. Here where we are, I won't say, but there were groups of them on overpasses with like these disgusting, disturbing pictures and these big banners and stuff like that, and it would slow down traffic and all this stuff. And The police were allowing them to do it, but eventually they kind of put a stop to it, and because it was unsafe and all this shit. So it went fairly quickly. I mean, they got a little bit of extra time. But if you look at online, it's really fucking hard to quell these loud but minority voices, essentially. So when they get together, you get a group of them. They seem like a pretty big group of people, but it's really still an outlier to the masses. But most of the masses won't say shit with a mouthful. So they're very loud, and they're the ones putting all the pressure on all these different companies, and it's implied pressure because they think, oh, fuck, there's a lot of people that think this way. But most people just go along. Or they'll go, oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I guess I'm for Black Lives Matter. I guess so. I don't know. Like, yeah, sure.
They don't know what it is.
And they don't want to go against it because the name sounds good. Like, of course Black Lives fucking matter. If somebody said that to me, I'd be like, yeah. But without knowing anything about it, I'd be like, yeah.
That's why it's good political strategy.
Oh, it's
right?
fantastic.
It's like I have the Saving Puppies party, and I'm going to say we're all about saving.
Oh,
puppies.
You want to kill puppies? Oh, wow, this guy wants to kill puppies.
No, it's not even that. I'm the Saving Puppies party.
Yeah.
But what we're doing is we're gathering them all up and we're slaughtering them.
Yeah.
That's like that's a pretty good analogy for how Black Lives Matter.
But that's what I mean. But then
working.
you would point out to me somebody who's against your organization.
I would say you want to kill puppies.
This guy wants to kill fucking puppies.
While we're over here behind the scenes killing puppies. Not even behind the scenes anymore. Did you see the Black Lives Matter thing that came out with the House?
The what?
Black Lives Matter as an organization, obviously being run by like a couple people.
Those three Marxist brats.
They there was like a developer that built a house. The market value of the house was like $3 million. No, the developer bought somebody who's friends with Black Lives Matter, but they bought a house for like $3 million, and then Black Lives Matter bought it from them for $6 million with the Black Lives Matter money. Now they're being investigated. And then there was a whole article about how they said financial disclosures are triggering.
Well, there was that.
and disturbing.
Well, there was that. There was the one woman that, I don't know, she had like 4 or 5 different properties or something. One in Georgia. Like they were all over the place. Yeah. So it's obviously that whole organization is wrought with fraud from the top to the bottom. But whatever. But anyways, the point was that like the small group of loud voices can make a lot of impact online because it's very easy to be a keyboard warrior.
Yeah, the right way to frame it is you're speaking to 1,000 people. Most of the people they don't really care, but the 20 people you offended, when they show up at your door, carrying pitchforks, it looks like a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But really, I mean, that's 2% of the people that you were speaking to, which is what's going on. And then in the internet, that's completely exaggerated because it's way easier to get, if you got 1 billion users on Twitter, just like 1,000 people going off on somebody who, doesn't have like millions of followers. It just feels like and
they make it trend.
Shit ton.
They make something trend.
Yeah. And then it seems from an outsider perspective that this is popular opinion, but it's not. And that's what's going on. And that's, I think, one of the reasons why they don't want to get rid of Twitter. They don't want to sell it because it'll become a fair game for sort of ideas. It'll become a free marketplace of ideas where you can actually discuss these things.
It definitely, if it fell, I think it would begin the dominoes. It'd be a dominoes effect. I think the other platforms, like even like Facebook and stuff, would have to kind of follow suit a little. Although I think I got to give Facebook some credit comparatively. I don't think they do as much of that. They do a lot of this, the fact checking bullshit and stuff like that, but they don't really, from what I've seen anyway, they don't really completely censor the videos the same way as, say,
in some ways maybe they're not as bad. In other ways they're significantly worse.
Maybe
like they've I don't know if they just entertained the idea or if they actually did it, but they were talking about censoring private messages. So like if I like went on iMessage and sent you wrong think, it would just block it.
I love that term, wrong think.
Yeah. You're
thinking wrong right now, pal.
Yeah.
Just saying.
I think I'm thinking right.
You're thinking wrong.
I'm right thinking.
You have right thinking, legit. I'm left thinking, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, I don't know how it's going to go down, but it'd be interesting to watch.
Well, this article here kind of shows us what's really going on, right? It's not about financial anything. It's not about money. It's all about political power. Right? Twitter poison pill blocks Elon Musk. Is Musk a Republican? Musk free speech woos conservatives. How crazy is that? As just a headline.
Yeah.
Like they're just talking about the same sort of stuff, but it's like the fact that they frame it this way. Is he a Republican?
But it's a wonder though if they
He can't be a Republican.
I've said this before. It's almost like a wonder if they're going to push too hard though, and like the pendulum's going to start to swing hard the other way, right?
That's what's going on with people like Elon Musk coming out and just trying to buy the platform, right? And who knows what's going to happen? Like he could probably still buy the platform with this poison pill in place. It might not. It really depends. Like you have to think about where the stock price would be and how much it would cost. But if the pill would dilute the shares, the stock would go down quite a bit. Then you could buy even more shares.
I'd like to hear from somebody who was like 80 or 90 years old and very still with it to talk about
slim pickings.
Well, no, yeah, no, but to talk about like how things were maybe back in the 50s even or something like that, like right?
Warren Buffett.
Yeah, maybe just to because I do think a lot of this is cyclical. Like if you look back to the 80s when Reagan was president, I've said this before, he was kind of like the Trump of the time, right? Because he was the same sort of thing. He was an actor, and they tried to dispel him as an idiot. Essentially, he wasn't good enough to be president and all this kind of stuff. And he was like deregulation, a big deregulator, right? So he was kind of like, there was a lot of correlations to him and Trump, whereas Trump is more of a business guy, right? And Reagan was more of it because he was an actor. But Trump was too, right? Trump was in show business too. So there's a lot of...
He was a business guy first.
Yeah.
He was kind of in show business because of his business stuff.
And because he's got a big ego, right? And he likes to...
Big
he wants
personality.
Yeah, right. Guy. But there's a lot of correlations between the two of them. So it's like... I'd like to talk to somebody who actually lived through enough time to ask them to say, like, did we see some other weird sort of cycles that would be, that would kind of be reminiscent at least of what we're going through right now? Or is this an absolute unique time?
No, the problem is yes. And they all show that it's going to get significantly worse in the short term.
But they haven't though. Like they didn't back then, I don't think, in the time period. So like
it's an 80-year cycle.
Yeah.
You go back 80 years, you go, what do you end up in? You end up in World War II. 80 years before that, it's like, I don't know what wars, like the Civil War, and then the Revolutionary War. I don't know how far it goes back, but you go back several hundred years. There's this roughly 80-year cycle
so there you go. So then we're at it.
Happens, and we're at, so it shows if that's to be continued, we're going to have a very serious conflict soon, which it's shaping up like that's exactly what's happening. And then, there could be all whole sorts of unique issues that are going to arise because of that. And then it's going to get better, and we'll have a golden age in like the 2040s or something.
Good thing you're getting into good shape then, buddy, because you're going to war.
I know. I'm going to have to go fight
You're going to war. I don't know if I will. I'm 43, so I don't think.
It depends on the draft. And
I don't know. Yeah. They might make me.
It'll just be robots.
Yeah. Oh, but who's got all the fucking robots?
I mean, everybody's got robots now, so it's...
Well, what, are they going to send their little vacuums? Send the Roomba? I'm going to send my Roomba and my little drone.
No, they're going to send their army of Boston Dynamics robots that they've been building.
That's what I'm saying. Who has the robots? It's all the people with money, right? It'd be like
have the technology.
It'd be like Elon Musk's army versus Bill Gates and
I mean, and that's
and
the other thing. There's
and Meta.
Sort of the power of the government has seemingly.
Fuck it, Mark Zuckerberg. I just forgot his name.
Yeah. Like
he's a robot anyway. Let's be real.
He's a robot in and of himself. He probably has laser eyes or something.
He is a robot. Like, come on. He's not a real person.
I don't know why this video is playing.
Oh, it's weird. Was it playing in the background?
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Doom and gloom on an Easter weekend.
Well, I mean, things are escalating in Ukraine still.
I don't know.
Inflation, 8.5%. which was worse than expected. More and more warnings of global supply chain issues leading to like a global food shortage.
Wow, you're full of some good news today.
I know. Well, there's not a lot of good news.
Yeah,
things are looking pretty dire in the short term or the medium to short term.
I'm not an alarmist type person, so I don't know. I think I still tend to think that we go through these spells, but I don't know. I feel like people are gonna kind of come to their senses a little bit. People will back off a little. The hard pushes on different things will back off a little. You get a change of government, and then they'll change direction a little bit. Who knows? I don't know. I hope the whole conflict with the Ukraine stops soon, because that's as much as whatever you want to talk about the political fucking facts of it and shit. The fact is there are a shit ton of people that are being affected. Ukrainians, I don't. What is it like? How many? Is it 10 million people in Ukraine or something?
I don't know.
I think it's something like that. I don't know. I could be wrong about the number. It could be more. Actually, it might be more. But yeah, if you got all these people displaced, you got all these refugees and stuff. That's gonna be that's just gonna be a problem, like a mountain of a problem in of itself, right? If this doesn't sort of, come to a halt fairly quickly. So yeah, but I don't know if this is gonna be like. It feels like people are saying it's going to be bigger than it is. I think. I don't think this is going to be the start of World War III or any of that kind of stuff. I just think
it could easily be that.
I don't think so. I think it's like I think this is like a money-making skirmish. I think this is one of these things where they're, like I said, my opinion is that the military-industrial complex is at play here. They're playing war games essentially, and unfortunately, when they do that, they fuck with people and they fuck with like just real people, and they displace real people in their little games to make money. So I don't know. I hope I'm right. If I'm wrong, then you're right, and this is a bad fucking deal. So
I think the only reason that this would lead to World War III is not necessarily the West's interest in Ukraine, but the wider ramifications of supply chain disruptions, a global food shortage, stuff like that, pushing other countries and other sort of peoples into states of desperation. You're already seeing, was it in Pakistan? Their leader got ousted due to a no confidence vote. There was, I don't remember the country's name. I forget there was a country that basically went bankrupt recently or something like that. In the last couple of weeks, because of inflation that they've been having there, and the impacts of sort of the global supply chain on them.
Was it Greece?
No.
Greece always has problems.
Greece just riddled with issues.
Venezuela?
But I think that this is going to... Venezuela, it's not even...
That's not even a country anymore. Sorry, anybody Venezuelan watching the podcast.
Yeah, but you don't have the internet.
We're not even talking to you. Forget it. Anybody who knows a Venezuelan, who maybe is sponsoring a Venezuelan, who's watching late night TV and they're sending $20 a month to a Venezuelan.
It's this domino effect of problems impacting people globally, leading countries to be a little bit more desperate.
Well, it makes you're right. It makes people
take
desperate.
action, and then that escalates global tension, and then you could just have military actions everywhere, right? Like what happens if Russia kind of gets fucked with the sanctions and everything, similar to World War II Germany, and now it's like, what do they do? All right, now the Russian people are going to be desperate. Maybe they're struggling to eat, and I mean they have this leader he's going to try to do something, and so what do they do, right? So now they might be like, okay, well, we're going to have to take, these border countries around here, or we're going to have to fight NATO directly, because, either we just sit here and rot away, or we fight and possibly lose, but at least we went down fighting, Yeah.
So, no, you're right. You're right. Obviously, yeah. When you get a leader that's a little unhinged, and it seems that Putin is. This all could be some type of weird master plan. He might be fully in in charge, like of his faculties, or he could be a little unhinged, and you just don't know at this point, right? It's weird because
It depends on how you define unhinged, right? Like,
but he's been in power for
so long.
Yeah, 20 something years. That's crazy. I mean, and then all of a sudden for him to become unhinged, it seems like it's calculated to me. Like, like
there might be elements that are uncalculated. Like maybe he wasn't expecting the West
to
be as
there's always that.
Yeah,
right?
and maybe he wasn't expecting the Ukrainians to fight back quite as hard, or
maybe I don't know.
Whatever it is, but it could just be too that Russia was on the decline. They have a very basic economy. Like it's very just kind of digging up oil and stuff and exporting it. They don't really have, like in the West we have tech and stuff like that. They don't have that. So it could be that Russia was on the decline. I think they have been on population decline. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if you've heard anything about that.
No, I haven't.
But I think they might have had, so they might already this might be a result of Russia being kind of on the brink of sort of catastrophe. And it's like, well, how do we stimulate the nation in a way that'll maybe revive it? Well, we go to war.
But nobody's really for this war. Like the Russian people aren't really for this war.
I think that's propaganda. There's a lot of Russians that support Putin, whether it's forced or not. There are a lot. And here's the problem, and this is why Twitter needs to be opened up, is they have completely censored everything coming out of Russia. So we don't know what the Russian media is saying.
Yeah, sure.
Like we don't know what their perspective is. And
we never know though. We didn't know with like the Gulf Wars and shit. Al Jazeera was saying, like it was all being
right. And so all I'm saying is that maybe if we saw the Russian perspective, we would see that okay, there's more support for this than we thought, and whether their narratives are accurate, true, or whether it's propaganda.
But what's like they've never really been fully clear on what the end game is for Russia, other than. It's almost essentially the annexation of Ukraine. Like basically there were
the two eastern places. I think
like if he had come out and clearly said, "Hey, this is what we want. This is what we're doing, and we're going to keep fighting until this is done, until we obtain this." But it doesn't seem like that's what's happening.
Weird.
At least like it doesn't. It's not apparent. And if you watch all different,
they are saying that they're fighting like Nazis in Ukraine, which is kind of true. The West is kind of hand waving that away as nonsense, but it is true that they do have a bit of an issue there. Defining on an issue, I don't know what percentage of their population might be considered Nazis in Ukraine, but it makes a little more sense when you know that Ukraine was when they were under the Soviet Union, because they were the victims of a particular genocide, right, where they were starved out.
Yeah,
I forget what it was called.
Yeah,
it's fucking famous genocide. I should know the name, but so during World War II, the Nazis were kind of like liberators to them, right? So it's almost like you got the Soviet Union here subjugating us, and then the Nazis came in and kind of gave them independence. And so there's like a soft spot for the Nazis in the Ukrainian kind of ethos, and so I think this is why you do have individuals or groups within the Ukraine that are effectively Nazis, and I think there were the two eastern cities or two places in the east of Ukraine that were like separatists in some extent, and so I think Putin said that they wanted Ukraine to give them their independence or allow them to act as their own nation state. So there's weird stuff. There's weird stuff that's going on. And then again, a part of us not really hearing the reason why they're in Ukraine and everything, that could very easily just be Western propaganda not reporting what the Russians are saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, true. But I mean, with the internet,
it'd be a lot easier if we had that.
Well, with the internet, it's like you can get other sources of information. There's different ways to get it, right? Like obviously, if you go on Google and stuff, there might be some controls there to control the information that you see. But
Yeah, definitely on Google.
but like
and DuckDuckGo now.
DuckDuckGo, there's other ways to get it, right? So I feel like
DuckDuckGo censored Russia stuff.
did it really?
Yeah, they made a statement about it, which kind of completely discredits its whole like reason for existing.
Right.
It's like to kind of be an unbiased search engine where you could just go
Which
and
is funny,
look for information.
'cause it could be
and
that
now
it
they're like,
was always biased, but it was under the guise that
Yeah.
they weren't.
yeah.
Right, so it's almost like a little shell sort of thing. Like, oh no,
Although
come
you
here.
you could get stuff on DuckDuckGo that wouldn't show up on
Yeah.
YouTube, and it was or not on Google. So there was you could test it out. There was reasons to go to DuckDuckGo. There probably
Sure.
still is, but now it's like, oh, okay, well, what else are you going to censor?
Yeah.
Or how else are you going to manipulate your search engine? Because the whole reason we were using it is because you weren't manipulating it. But yeah, you can go and you can get the Russia. The problem is it's not being reported on in the West, and so you're going to have to learn Russian.
Yeah.
Like it's all in Russian, and so I haven't seen anybody who's gone out of their way, particularly probably because if you did this, you'd get taken down immediately. You'd be kicked off YouTube. You'd be kicked off Twitter, off Facebook. All these places, if you went and you said you got the RT is sort of the Russian news, right? If you went and were reporting what RT was reporting, essentially, just sort of in Englishifying it, so that people could
Englishifying
see.
it.
Yeah,
Englishifying.
Englishifying
So
it.
if anybody looks up that word, it doesn't exist. But
Well, it does now.
Yeah, it does now. It's the fucking slang dictionary.
Yeah, exactly. It's a word now.
I like it. I like
made
it.
it.
Englishifying.
Englishify.
But Englishify. You should Englishify your situation. You're nursing the bottom little bit of that beer because it's like
There's like
I can tell just by the way.
third.
Did I just hit your
there.
fucking camera. I'm gonna.
Yes, you did.
I did. I'm gonna change these cameras at some point. I'm gonna change where they're mounted and stuff, so they're not sitting beside us.
Oh, yeah, that could work. I don't know.
If
You have an idea.
I'm an eternal optimist, right? So
Yeah.
So I tend to look at things like, for example, we're talking about COVID, the vid. When it first started, I made bets with people. I was like, this shit isn't lasting past like July. This is 2020, right? And then it went past, and I'm like, what? I'm shaking my head. I'm like, this can't go much longer. This can't. Like, come on, we're fucking losing our
I was
minds.
saying there's no way they do more than one lockdown.
I was saying all that kind of shit, right?
Yeah.
But then, okay, so now you look, and they're talking about another fucking bullshit. So you look at Shanghai now. So
Have you seen that video?
Yeah, where they're fucking locking down the whole damn city, essentially. Is that propaganda or is that real?
I'm pretty sure that's real.
I'm pretty sure it is too, but
knowing
I
what
don't
China
know.
is doing, willing to do, and capable of doing.
And hold on though, it could fucking be propaganda to try and get us to
be.
lock down again. Like if you look at what happened,
I don't know that showing the state of the civilians and their anguish is a good idea. Like if they were reporting, if it was in our media reporting like, oh hey, look at China, they did this crazy lockdown in Shanghai and there's no COVID there anymore. How great is that? Now there were outlets talking about how basically advocating that we do that sort of thing, which is absolutely terrifying. But the fact that that video is out there, I don't think that's probably. I think that's real, and I think that I don't know, should send chills down everyone's spine that that's happening right now.
Yeah.
In our world, right? We like to have this optimistic view of like, oh no, everything's great. We live in the best time. You know, the evils that we've seen in the past. They're in the past. And then you look at that and you see some of the other stuff that was going on. You want to get into Alex Jones stuff. Alex Jones says that they're doing, and I believe that this is probably true because it's like, he says animals have rights and human beings have rights. So they create genetic hybrids so that they can have creatures to experiment on that don't have rights. And that's how they get around it. And I mean, yeah, why wouldn't they do that?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not thinking about the morality of what you're doing, or if you're thinking like sure, maybe we're doing some things that are morally questionable, but in the end, the end justifies the mean kind of mindset, which you can easily get into. Why wouldn't they do that? So they probably are.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Like, it's hard for me to think. It's hard for me to think of. I can get behind the idea of that, like the whole idea of making like hybrids to do different things, because like I told you about that, the vivisection and all that kind of stuff that we've done in the past. So like, history repeats itself.
The idea is you avoid any legal ramifications.
Right, right, and they did it with the fucking vaccine, right? Like, not to mention, I better be careful.
Yeah,
but they did it with the, the indemnity clause where you can't sue them.
Yeah, which is, and not only can you not sue them, but it's gonna be like 2050 before they release any of their. Their trial data that they have.
But yeah, so it's I don't know. Obviously, I can see that it's that shit's possible, but again, it's all like rooted to money. So these kinds of things is rooted to money. I don't think anybody's sensible. This is my opinion again. I don't think anybody sensible can say that the vaccine is harmful in that it was created to be harmful. I would think more so like the flu vaccine and stuff. It's created and it doesn't necessarily work the way they wanted it to work. That would be more. And there might be, of course, there's going to be side effects and stuff. There's side effects with everything.
I don't know that we're allowed to say that.
I don't know if we're allowed to say that at all, but it's my opinion to say. We might get this fucking cut. Who knows? Yeah. But it's money, right? Anything you can look at is driven by money, the need to make profit. But when you start to get into like nefarious sort of reasoning behind stuff, that it's like people are doing things to hurt humanity long term and stuff like that, it's hard for me to kind of wrap my head around that or agree with it. Because if you can put the money end behind it, the money and power, I can get behind that all day. Like
well, for starters, I don't know where you got that from, because I never said anything like that, right?
No, I'm not saying you did.
Okay,
I'm saying people are saying that. I'm not saying you.
But entertaining this idea, it's not about hurting people. Sort of say, it isn't about maximizing harm or causing suffering necessarily. Although there is some interesting ideas, like maybe they're into some deep occult shit and they need mass suffering to get some kind of energy to do some kind of thing that they're trying to do. I don't know. That's just an out there idea that might lay the groundwork for why some groups might want to cause suffering. Mm-hmm. But what if it's just about like they genuinely in their heart believe that the earth is overpopulated, and
almost like a Thanos,
and we need to do something. Yeah, we need to do something about it, or it's going to be catastrophic for everybody. And so you could easily get by. So, like, let's say, for example, what are the conspiracy theories around the vaccine, which is probably not true at all, although we'll see in the long term, but we're going to say it's not true at all, is that the vaccine was sort of sterilizing people.
I don't think that's true at all, but okay. I find that to be silly, but I don't know. But
would it be silly if you could wrap your head around certain elite individuals, the elite, the Hillary Clintons, the Bill Gates, the Jeffrey Epstein crew, the Prince Charles, like the real people that are running the world at the top, if they believed that the world was overpopulated and we needed less people, you could, like, let's assume if that was true, wouldn't you support enacting these policies to, like, mandate some kind of medical treatment and try to force as many people to take it as possible that would, you're not directly killing people, but you're going to stifle the right word? You're going to
stifle?
You're going to stifle the human race's production of human beings so that in the next 100 or 200 years, the population dramatically decreases to a level that you believe is more manageable.
Yeah.
right? It's one of those the end, especially if you're not directly hurting anybody.
Yeah, no,
And a lot of these people, you could rationalize it even more in your head and say a lot of these people would just think that they're naturally sterile.
Yeah,
and they might not.
Anytime you get around, right? Anytime you get behind the idea that somebody thinks they know better for everybody,
that's when it gets dangerous, I think.
Yeah, and
somebody with power thinks they know better.
Yeah.
I mean, some people in power do know better.
No, it's true. And I mean, like, realistically,
it's just like, how much do you act on it? Like when if Elon Musk buys Twitter to open it up, he is somebody in power who thinks he knows better. And that's, I mean, we just might agree with the outcome. But yeah. I guess you can maybe argue that if you're expanding freedoms, it's always a good thing, and it gets dangerous when you think that you need to restrict them.
I agree with that.
I don't know.
But that's our libertarian mindsets thinking that. Now, but I think you will, if you err on that side, you're always going to do better than if you err on the other side. Like, I think history always shows that when you try to go into more restrictive governance of people, based on someone,
we always go back to that.
I know it's weird, but it is cyclical. It is cyclical.
Yeah,
for
but
sure.
there's so many people that are just so for it. They're just so for this, like,
sheep mentality.
Control.
I think the majority of people, and again, I don't mean to hurt anyone's feelings. When I say sheep, I don't mean sheep in the way that we're just idiots and we're just following, but sheep in the way that you don't. What's that?
Those people exist.
Oh, they are. Of course, they are. Yeah. But I think those are the minority. But I think in the majority of people, you have a lot of sheep type people that just don't want to step out. They just want to do their thing, and they're not.
You can sit them down and you can talk to them, and they're going to agree.
And they're going to be reasonable. Of course, they're never going to. But they're never going to be an activist or any of that kind of stuff.
They're just an activist. They're not even like I don't know. You might. Their boss comes into their office and questions them on their views, and they know that their job is on the line. They're just gonna say the views that they're supposed to, even if they don't agree with it. Yeah,
exactly. I think most people fall under that plate, right? So it's not to say and then people take advantage of it. It's just same as like we were just talking when I was talking first about illusionists, like illusionists or magicians, these kind of people. They play on the heavy masses of people. The majority of people will fall for all of their tricks, but there are some that will see through it right away. They'll be like, "No, I see that what you just fucking did there," and they see it so simply. But there's such a minority that it doesn't matter. They're not going to play to those people, right? You know what I mean? So they're just going to play to the majority all the time.
See, I've thought about going to see a psychic.
I did. I have.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Would you recommend it?
No, it was bullshit. I don't know. Like,
I mean, some of them,
some people say they're amazing.
For sure. Like, I fully believe that there are, like, psychic abilities and certain level of things.
Yeah.
I just also believe that a lot of the people selling that
That's what I was about to say, I think the people selling
but
it
I don't know
are
that
the charlatans.
all of them are. So this is why I've been curious, because like I know about some of the tricks. So I've been curious about just
reading and stuff.
Yeah, so I've been curious about going to a psychic and maybe doing like a tarot reading or something, because I think there might be something to tarot if done properly. But
I think there is too. 100%.
I just kind of going in there fully like cognizant, right? Fully aware, all alarm bells up. Like I'm not going to feed you any information. Or anybody in my vicinity. I'm not going to give any information. And I'm going to see if something can come out of you that convinces me.
Well, I'm going to tell you a little story that happened to me with tarot cards back when I was maybe 18 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And this person I knew she was fairly new with doing it. She was doing it like kind of like hobby and stuff like that, but she was like really into it. So she tried to do a tarot card reading on me, right?
Yeah.
And so she does the whole I say bullshit,
she's got a ritual.
Yeah, you do the whole thing where, I've got to take this card, I've got to deal them myself because it has to be me, and all this different shit she does, right? She sets them up. Anyway, so she starts to do the reading. Yeah. And she's like, as she's going through, she literally stops herself like maybe early to midway through, and she goes, "Nah, I'm just not going to do this." And I go, "What?"
Whoa.
And I go, why not? I go, no, I'm curious. I go, let's go. I'm like, I'm curious.
I'm in now.
I'm in. I go, yeah, now that you do that, like, now I want to know. And she's like, nah, I don't really want to do it. And I'm like, why? I go, like, what'd you see or whatever? And I'm like, you know. And she's like, it was just a lot of negative that was coming out. I mean, she goes, I didn't really want to read. It's not going to be a good reading, and I didn't want to do it. And I was like, And oddly enough, this is like just before my dad died, just before I had that big car accident with my best friend. You know, the whole thing I went through with my first girlfriend, all that whole bullshit. Like, I went through a really fucking dark time where, like, I was ready to kill myself every fucking day. You know what I mean? Like, I was literally like planning it, you know? Yeah. So it's funny. And it was like a short period of time after that all happened. So who knows? Like, I always thought, oh, maybe something was coming through in some way. I'm not really that guy that believes that kind of stuff so much. But again, you, I'm open. I mean,
believe it's possible.
Oh, I do too. I think there are people that are clairvoyant. There are people that see things differently than we do on different planes.
Notice I've had at least 2 more precognitive dreams since I started talking about it.
Fucking precog, man.
Focus it. Well, I think everybody has it, and I think it might manifest in dreams, and maybe some more than others.
Yeah, maybe when you're sort of aware and you open yourself up to it, it's
once you kind of or start
like we were talking about with like Ouija boards and shit. If you open yourself up to that sort of realm, now you're like you're a vessel essentially. Yeah. Go say Bloody Mary in the mirror in the dark 3 times.
Yeah. Something might happen.
So many people
have weird fucking dreams.
I've had people that I've said that to do that. Like I've said go do it, and they're like, I'm not fucking doing that. I'm like, you're hilarious. I've done it. Nothing happened.
Yeah. I didn't see anything. That kind of thing is like But you might, who knows? Because I think it's all around intent, right? So you don't know what you might be manifesting into your life when you do something weird like that. You know, it might not be like exactly what it is, but maybe, I don't know, some negative juju comes your way. Who the hell knows? You gotta be careful about that stuff. I genuinely think that.
You know what? I'm open to like everything that I'm not like. I don't really have fear of anything more than I have curiosity. Like, so there's a part of me that is almost like, I would like to open myself up just to see what the fuck, see all that shit.
Yeah.
But,
but
at the same time, I'm like, I'm also...
For me, I've seen enough now. Because at first, right, like, what really changed me is that, like, early psychedelic experience that I told you about.
Here we go. It's got to be psychedelic.
Well, but that completely changed the course of my life.
It always goes to psychedelics.
Because it's just so influential.
No matter what we do, we can't get away from it. Always psychedelics.
Into the metaphysical.
This is your interlude of asthma. your pre-psychedelic interlude. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
But I've described this experience many times where it was like it was nothing. It was like going to the top of existence, and it. To me, also that night I had the out of body experiences where I was like on the other side of the room looking at myself. Yeah, I told you I felt something like that too. Like not from like the other side. Yeah, but like I've actually been like, I'm on the other side of that couch looking at me. That's my perspective. Yeah, but I'm looking at me and I still have full. That was weird. So that night is where everything changed for me because I was a staunch materialist, atheist kind of person. I'm like, I know everything is fucking like atoms and everything, which it gets even crazier too once you realize that the everything is basically nothing. You know, it's all energy, but it's in various states. Yeah, but there's just nothing there. No, I know, but once you go down, you're looking at an atom. At a certain point, there's nothing there. You're like, there's nothing to look at anymore. It's like, so how does all? So it's so weird. But that's just like the mainstream science kind of tying it to some of this more. No, but you're right though, because stuff. It's like if you break it right down and everything is atoms, everything's made up of atoms, and atoms are energy in various states, right? Then this table that I'm touching, it's mostly nothing. So why to like the turn of why does it? Why does my force not go through it? Yeah. Right? But if you look at magnets and you put a magnet in the wrong way and they just push against each other. Because it's a whole other kind of force. But that's what I'm saying. So like that, but that has, you can't see that either. You look at it and you go, this is, I can't touch these two things together because there's a force. It's like me not being able to put my hand through this. Yeah. Maybe there's just a different kind of force that we're just not aware of. But we can't really see. When we get down to the subatomic level, there's really nothing there. So we're like,
holy shit, like all it is energy.
Well, I would argue that we are all God. God is the entirety of reality, and it is all of this is sort of on purpose in extent similar to, as Alan Watts would say, a play, like a stage play. Yeah. And the role that not even just necessarily like individuals, animals, and everything, but the role that everything plays is like more analogous to an actor, where you're kind of you're living up, but it's way more complex than that. And the whole point is to
maybe
like
we
simulate
never die.
But
maybe we actually never die. We only die. We only die in this current in this current reality for us. So like we just continue to go on.
Yeah.
In other realities and such. So at various different times and stuff. So it's like
I would say that you
just never
die,
changes.
but what you are is ultimately significantly greater.
By the
than
way,
you are.
speaking of that, my half brother died 2 days ago.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. So my eldest half brother. Yeah.
That's
pretty
unfortunate.
Yeah, it was pretty fucking weird and sad. I don't want to talk about it too much on the camera, but yeah, pretty crazy. I mean, I wasn't close with him over the last bunch of years, but just crazy that we're talking about this. That it's out of nowhere. All of a sudden, I get a call actually from my other half brother, my brother Sean. You met Sean. He called me and he was like, and then I talked to my niece, so my son, my brother's daughter. I haven't talked to her in forever either, but so I haven't been close to that side of the family. But it's pretty weird. But talking about this, I hope that maybe he is continuously living somewhere else in another reality. Anyways,
well, that's an interesting synchronicity because we've had a bit of an ongoing scare in our family. Someone.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it was my grandfather was put in the ICU recently with COVID. They thought that he would need to get put on a ventilator. Then he didn't need the ventilator because I guess the antibiotics work, but he's a diabetic, and so he's having complications because he wasn't eating and drinking. And then they're saying he's getting better, but he's having like hallucinations and things. And
fuck.
Yeah, and that's the last update that I've received, which is, I don't know.
The more I sort of get my my head outside of physical constraints, if you will, like
materialism.
Yeah, the materialism, essentially. The idea that, different ideas, different,
esoteric stuff.
Esoteric stuff, exactly, yeah. The less I may be affected by death. Like, I already am a little numb to it because I have had a decent amount of loss in my life, right? But, so I'm a little numb to it, but it's usually like in the quiet times where I get sad about stuff like that. But I can talk about like my brother and
what's weird for me is like we've talked about this before. Like I'm not afraid of dying. That's mostly because I've confronted that. But it's hard for me when like for other people. You know what I mean?
When other people die, it's hard for you.
Yeah, like I haven't really had to deal with loss much in my family. I've really only had one close relative, and that, I don't know. It hit me differently than I could have ever expected.
There are a couple people that if I were to die, that would really fuck me up for a good, I don't know. Like there's certain people.
I have this whole like coherent thing about sort of how I view the universe, and so death is like it's all a part of it, and it's a whole point, right? Like, it certainly makes living more interesting, and then it's like I don't really care much about what happens to me, but there are some people it's just like,
what's funny about me?
Anything to happen to them.
I'm both. I think this is a selfish way to be. I will admit that I think I'm selfish this way. I don't want to have to grieve anybody. So I would rather die before everybody else. It's like the whole, I think I told you this before. I won't get a dog. I wouldn't get a dog or a cat. Like, I mean, a cat is a little different because they're kind of assholes sometimes. Assholes, and so sometimes you get fucking cats that are amazing. They're
I don't know, my parents got a cat that's fucking awesome.
Right. But a dog, like everybody knows a dog is a fucking sweetheart. And they're usually like your best little friend, right? So I always tell people when they get a dog, I'm like, oh, good job. You just bought a friend you get to watch die. For most intents and purposes. Right. You get to watch all of it. So good Good job. Like, I know that's a cynical sort of asshole way to be, but
yeah. I mean, it is a part of life, though, and it is, it does build a little bit of resilience. That's why I think there is something to, like, the more old way, the more kind of living, kind of growing up with it. You have animals that you're raising, maybe you're on a farm, or you're just more in tune with nature.
Yeah.
I don't know, it might, that might be...
I don't know, man. I put my buddy's dog down, and it was one of the worst things I ever had to do. Yeah. Fuck that. I'm not putting myself through that shit. I know, like, some people go, oh, yeah, but you're missing out on the reward of having a dog. I'm like, yeah, but you know what?
It's going to die.
It's going to die, and I know that's coming. So I don't have the dog right now. If you gave me a fucking dog and I had to have it for a little while, and I got to love the dog, that's different. I mean, all right, now I know, fuck me. I'm stuck with watching this thing die eventually. Or if I'm like 65 or something like that. If I live till like 70, I'm getting a dog. 100%.
Really?
If
I
live
to
to
leave it, you want to do that? Have you seen videos of dogs
I'll
crying on their own?
I'll put it in my will to that, somebody, like, I'll figure it out that someone is going to take this dog. Like, it'll be set up that somebody takes this dog. It'll be fine. But I'll get a dog. That's when I'll get a dog. Because I know chances are the dog's going to outlive me. Sorry, dog. Yeah. You're going to have to watch me die.
He doesn't. And then you die like a week after.
I know. I mentioned that.
That'd be what happens.
That happened with my ex-wife. She had a cat. This fucking cat. I liked it at first, but the problem was she was a shitbag fucking cat owner. The worst kind, right? Would leave the cat litter for a week, wouldn't change it and shit. Like, just a fucking goof. Yeah. Take care of the fucking thing. You want the cat, but you don't want the responsibility of the cat. Anyways, so I got to resent the fucking thing because it would vomit everywhere too and shit. And I just really got to fucking resent this cat. So the last couple of years, it just became like, fuck you, cat. And the cat was basically, fuck you too. It was one of these things. I left it alone most of the damn time unless I caught it somewhere doing something it shouldn't. And I'm like, get the fuck out of here and chase this stupid thing. And it would hiss at me. And I'm like, fuck you. It was
a lot bigger than you.
It was basically like that. It was basically like, go fuck yourself. And I was like, go fuck yourself. But when I left, the cat died 3 days later.
Ooh.
After I left the house.
That's weird.
And I said, I would make the joke.
That cat was living to fucking piss you off.
I make the joke that people, like, when I left, when I was walking out with the bag, the cat looked at me and went, like, I fucking lived you, buddy. You know what I mean? And then I left and the cat went, I can fucking rest.
I die in peace.
I can rest now. Meow. So anyways.
But to get back to what I was originally saying, before we went on this sort of grim
we gotta keep this a little bit fucking light. We're on some heavy topics today. We gotta try and make some jokes too.
Yeah, well, we just went fucking very heavy. I'll take it back to.
That's why I'm making jokes.
Later, fucking not weed. So when I had this experience, right, I went from being like a staunch sort of materialist atheist kind of type to being like, okay, things are possible that we don't understand through sort of our current sort of science, or it's just not understood. Like, this stuff is just not, we don't have an explanation for it. And that kind of opened my mind up to like, okay, what is reality? Because it's not what it seems, or at least it's not what it seems if you take this materialistic perspective. And that set me down a whole path. And so things have happened in my life that just have put me in a place now where I'm like, okay, there's some weird stuff that goes on, and some people are maybe more connected to it, and that's to get back to it. That's why I'm thinking about going to a psychic to see what's up, see if somebody can
read you.
Not read me. I'm not so interested.
What do you want to know?
The outcome. I want to know if they're legit, and I want to ask them.
But how would you?
They would have to convince me by telling me so. But it's not about.
But tell you what though? I mean, like, tell you shit that's already happened to you, type thing.
Tell me something that they wouldn't know, or be extremely improbable for them to just guess. I don't even know that. I don't know that, like, a name of
that's
somebody.
Not usually how it happens though. Straight up, like, from I've been, I don't, like, you'd have to maybe look for that. But I've been to a psychic twice, I think. Twice. Yeah, and both times I didn't go. It was just like whatever. But so I've been twice, and both times I'm trying to think of the first time. I even like recorded the one. Yeah? I had it for a while and what she was saying. But I was very, very underwhelmed. And the one I went with my
Underwhelmed
ex-wife.
in what way?
Well, I expected.
What happened?
Well, things she was saying about me and about she was talking about. They talk about different things. So they'll talk about like they go through this fucking thing where you're in this phase of the moon and then these are your lucky numbers, and they'll go through all this bullshit and whatever. I mean that's pie in the sky, whatever the fuck it is, right? Like I don't
necessarily think some of it is bullshit.
Well, I'm just saying, but I don't know enough to understand that.
Yeah, she's just throwing stuff at you.
She's throwing this bullshit
that you don't know to verify,
right? That I'm not going to be able to verify. So it was like there was a lot of that, and then she went into. She actually got some shit wrong at the time. This one where I'm talking about now, I went when I was still married, and my brother had died already, and so she went into some stuff, and then she didn't even know that, like, because I led her to that, and then she couldn't verify that. It put me off, and I think she said, I can't remember exactly, but I think she said that I had. She goes, I see you're one of many siblings. And I was like, yeah. And I didn't want to like feed the cold read. You know what I mean? Because like a lot of times.
That's a 50-50 kind of.
Right. There's a lot of those kinds of things. Like it's like they'll use bullshit. Like they'll say, I see there was like a strong male figure in your life when you were growing up. Like, fuck
no
off.
shit.
Like, everybody has a fucking strong, like, and if I'm an interpretive type of person.
Well, everybody who didn't is probably in jail.
Right. Like I could go, even though my dad wasn't, I could say, well,
there were probably other people. Yeah.
There was this, or maybe my brother, or maybe this other person, or maybe I had this friend. Like anybody can fucking reach and get there, right? With the
most people had a strong male.
So I was literally doing this with her when she was saying stuff. I was literally not saying anything. I was just like looking at her, right? And at times I felt like she was waiting for me to answer. And at one time she was kind of asking questions, and I go, aren't you supposed to be the one that tells me things? Right. Like, I'm like, why am I answering questions? Yeah. I literally said that to her, and she looks at me. She's like, well, no. And then she kind of like backed off a little. So it gave me that cold reading kind of feel.
Yeah.
But
it makes it sound like she's,
fishing.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so then she said a few other things. I mean, in retrospect, she said something about, something to the effect that I was in a cycle. She goes, we all live in 7-year cycles or something. And she goes, you're finishing a cycle and you're going to begin a new one. And I forget, she gave me a date, which I wish I had the recording still. I think it kind of correlated to like when I split with my ex-wife and all this kind of stuff. So
I do think there is something to
that kind of hit,
cyclical, right? Spiritual cyclicality. Because someone explained it, one, not to me. I'm reaching for a podcast that I saw, and I think the description that this person gave was that like the sky is like this giant clock that God put there for us to kind of, because it is on some level. You can use it to sort of to tell the seasons, so you know when to plant your crops and
the fucking Mayans
stuff like that. And so they're saying basically what they're saying is it goes a little bit beyond that. And so I think they were specifically talking about how like Pluto is about to go into a rare
retrograde or whatever they call it.
Something like that, and like this signals that. Which kind of correlates with what we're seeing, but I think that this signals that we're going to see a bunch of turmoil, but it's going to be like a new beginning kind of thing.
Yeah,
like
they say all of those kinds of things, and I don't know what the fuck it means. But
yeah, and I think and so, but
there's a lot of that terminology.
I think there's something to the sort of astrology stuff. It's just hard to, because the problem is astrology is like the fucking like
it's like
basic dumb
literal
white girl stuff.
Pie in the sky.
Yeah,
it's like literal pie in the sky.
But I think there's something to the sky as a giant clock that sort of gives us some information.
When you start to break down astrology further, right? Like astrological signs.
Really go into
like,
it.
Well, there's like so everybody kind of looks at the top line of it, the astrological signs.
Yeah, but you get a book this tall on astrology.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So like if you look at it like from the the fucking just direct view,
like,
and
you see, I'm
a Sagittarius, or I'm a Scorpio, right? Or I'm a Scorpio.
I don't even know what I am.
You are a Pisces, I think.
Pisces.
I think, yeah, I'm not gonna say your date, but whatever. But or no, you're an Aries.
March 25th.
Yeah, well, there you go. You're an Aries.
I don't care.
Yeah, you're an Aries.
I'm an Aries. What does that mean?
Aries are fire,
What
and
does it mean?
they're supposed to be like a strong personality, very kind of stubborn and.
Yeah, but that's accurate.
Yeah, no, yeah,
That's
no. But if you break them down,
accurate.
if you break those down, but I mean, you can get any of those things in, right? But then you start to break it down further. Like I knew this girl that was into that shit, and she broke it down further, and then you can get like, so your birth date is on like fucking the moon of Scorpio or this, and like you can break it down further and further and further to where it's like less of like. So I used to always say to people, I'm like, how do we put 7 billion people into 12 signs? You know what I mean? You
Right.
have a lot of fucking overlap. Like basically every 600 million Scorpios out there, 600 million fucking Aries out there, right? So it's like, yeah, there's 600 million people that are exactly the same as me, but when you start to break it down further, and
But also
say,
too, once you realize
the time that you were born and the actual date and where the position of the moon was and the position of this, you start to really kind of narrow it down.
But also at the same time, is it like when you say exactly the same, like it's broad.
Yeah.
Like it's not like it's like I want to.
No, what I'm saying though is like, so when somebody looks at it, in the basic sense, and they go, oh, this horoscope is like for 600 fucking million different people. Yeah. No, not really, because when you break it right down, but the problem with like horoscopes is they're written in such a way that it's so vague and broad, it's gonna hit everyone. Like you can pick a piece out of I could just give you a horoscope that's not based on your birthday in any way and tell you it was, and you'd read it and go, oh, okay, like I can make some sense out of that to relate it to me and my life. It's very rare you'd read something and go, that is fucking complete hogwash. It's just the way it's written that it's gonna hit you a little bit.
Especially if you're primed to in the culture to kind of
if you're primed to like accept it, you're gonna go, oh my god, that's exactly what's happening. Oh, I'm gonna run into a new opportunity at work. That could just fucking mean that a new person started or something, and then you made a new friendship, or maybe I don't know, you got offered to do a special project or something, or like it could be any fucking thing, right? And you can make sense of it in any way that way.
Yeah.
Right, we humans can rationalize all kinds of stuff.
Some of the
absolutely.
Some of the stuff is it. Yeah, you're right. I am an Aries. It says people of Aries sign are open-hearted and strong. Their main features are frankness and honesty. Aries sign loves work. Aries sign is true and fair in love. Aries sign is seldom ill. Aries woman is intellectual and extremely strong. Aries man is overflown with ideas and creative energy. That does like get me a little bit.
Of course it does. It's like me. I'm kind of like classic Scorpio. Like if you look up Scorpio, I am really fucking classic Scorpio. So like
Scorpio sign is an expression of selfishness. Scorpio sign is philosopher by nature. Scorpio sign can achieve everything. Scorpio sign unites the reason and passions. Scorpio sign people are seldom ill. Scorpio woman possesses deep mysterious beauty. Scorpio man is passionate in all.
Yeah, see, what you're reading is like very vague too.
No, yeah, it's gonna be.
Yeah, but there's ones where you get right into it, and they do hit me a lot more. So like I've had people say, people that are in that sort of sphere.
Well, I was showing you
they'll say that I'm a classic case Scorpio.
I was showing you the Destiny birth cards thing. They get into a little bit more detail, and they're some of those are a little bit.
I do think
weird.
this shit's interesting. Like I'm definitely not opposed to it or whatever. I'm interested in anything that has some like long-term information. Like it's based on a lot of shit.
Some kind of
and if you get right into it, like if you look at it from a just.
The problem is all the bullshit, right? Well, like it's so hard to parse it out.
If you're looking at it from like the newspaper back in the day and you read the fucking horoscope section, you're going to think it's hogwash, stupid fucking bullshit. But if you really get down into it with somebody who is an astrologer and they start to explain all the nuance
they pull out the books.
Right, and you go,
they got like a whole library of stuff.
Holy shit,
and they're
man.
turning to a certain page like, okay, so we're going to do it's like, okay, hold on. What's happening here?
You got some stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
And I think there's this is apparently a common sentiment in the more esoteric groups. It's It's like the millionaires study the charts, and the billionaires study the stars.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that there's like huge or more macro trends that you can see if you sort of pay attention to the astrological stuff that's going on. And that's what they say to some people. And I think some people claim to build their wealth this way.
You know, some people figure out shit early. Some people figure it out late.
Yeah.
Some people never figure it out at all. Like, it's this kind of stuff. It's funny. D just messaged me. Want to go to the gym with me? Doing the podcast. Shithead.
Shithead.
I didn't say shithead. But there. If you watch the podcast, D,
You'll
the podcast, shithead.
You'll know.
Yeah. You don't watch the podcast, fuck you.
Yeah,
How about
exactly.
that? Yeah.
You get fucked.
She goes, the other day she was telling me, she's like, oh, you guys are hilarious. The podcast's hilarious. I'm like, hey, you watching the right podcast? Because we're really not hilarious. Most of the time we're fucking saying some bullshit.
Well, that's what's hilarious about it. We'll start talking about Elon Musk. We'll get fucking into nonsense.
Now she's like, after podcast. I'll call you. Now fuck off. Yeah, if you're watching, fuck off.
Yeah, no one's watching.
Yeah, no one's watching. No one's watching. No one at all. It's Easter. It's Easter, dickbags. Nobody's watching on Easters.
Everyone's got stuff to do.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Was it? Oh, I was gonna say, like, what do you make of fucking precognitive dreams, man?
Again, like I'm
That's
not
so fucking weird.
Yeah, I think if you're in touch, I think if you're like, you're in touch with the side of your psyche, and you've opened it up, and you can clear your mind of bullshit. I think anything's possible. I think you can be in touch with all kinds of fucking weird shit. You might not. Most likely, you're not going to be able to explain it. Most likely, your little monkey brain, like everybody's, is going to go, I don't know what the fuck I just witnessed or saw or experienced, but it was weird. Mm-hmm. Like, I think most people, when they experience something, have no fucking reference point or idea of what they've just seen, witnessed, or experienced, and they just wash it down to, I don't know, like I was just dreaming, I saw something weird, or I experienced something weird, or I was taking some DMT and I had a weird fucking experience, and they don't know how to quantify it.
Away.
Right.
I think a lot of people don't pay attention. That's what I found, is I've been paying attention to my dreams.
Yeah.
And that's probably why I've noticed it. It probably happens more often. It's just that you don't always remember your dreams, or you don't always draw the connections. But it's definitely been weird.
The very simple way to make sense of something like that is, for example, if I say something to you, if I put something in your sphere of recognition, I say, hey, I start to, like, I don't know, maybe it's something you don't know necessarily of. I'm like, hey, have you noticed there's a lot of Teslas on the road lately? And then all of a sudden your brain starts to fucking see Teslas everywhere, right? It's because it's now in your sort of,
it's been
in your
brought
sphere.
To your attention.
Yeah, but otherwise you've just sort of
zoned it out.
It's been it's been backwash. It's been just been there. Yeah. It happens with everything. It's like, because our brains can only really manage to notice, I think it's like 9 different things at any given time. The rest of it we tune out, because if we didn't, we couldn't concentrate on anything. We would just be like all the time, like, fuck, there's I can hear the noise from the furnace right now. Yeah. Like, if I wasn't able to tune that out,
go pee.
And I'm going to hear the noise from your pee very soon.
You can hear the noise from my pee.
I shouldn't feed you alcohol because you always have to pee. I think last podcast was the only one where you didn't. So we should.
I go like 3 hours without peeing.
You fucking did. That's So now I'm just gonna. So now I'm gonna be the dickbag that just talks to the camera by myself. Wash your fucking hands. We'll allow the extra few seconds. It's supposed to be at least a solid 20, by the way.
Solid. Who's making these rules?
I know. How many fucking places do you go now where it shows you how to wash your hands? That's hilarious. I feel like I'm in kindergarten. Everywhere I go. Here are the ways to wash your hands. Quickly wet them, then lather for 20 seconds. Thanks, tips. Anybody who needs to be told how to wash their hands probably wasn't doing it right. And they're the reason why COVID is a thing. Everybody knows it started from dirty hands. Yeah. Well, that's nice of you. At least you spritzed them, right? You just dry. You didn't even fucking dry them.
They'll dry themselves.
Holy shit! You're just touching shit. You're such a gross person. People don't realize how gross you are until like you go to the washroom.
Yep. Well,
I want to have a fire tonight. We should have done a fucking fireside thing. It's a little windy out there though.
oh yeah, it is windy. It was a nice weather though. Eh?
I know it's like 9 fucking degrees.
It's gonna be. Oh, it's raining now. It's fucking gonna be fire season soon.
I know.
Here's the problem though, right? It's Friday. Tomorrow's Saturday. Saturday would be a great day for a fire, but it's gonna be fucking cold.
Yeah.
Sunday is going to be cold. Monday is going to be cold. Tuesday is going to be cold. Wednesday is going to be a little warmer, but still cold. It doesn't get warm until fucking Thursday. Although we can maybe a fire next Saturday or something because it'll be warm. But
I don't know, man. I want to have as many fires as we can.
Yeah, once the season comes.
I'm so past cold weather. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. Well,
But I'll tell you these precognitive dreams that I've had, and you tell me what you make of it. Because it's weird. The first one's less significant. The first one happened last Saturday, and I dreamed that I was grocery shopping, and there was a lot of weird dream stuff going on. But one of the elements of the dream was that they didn't have any apples. Then when I went to the grocery store on Sunday, they weren't out of apples. They had the apples, but they didn't have apples because I like to buy the bags of them. They didn't have any of those for the first time ever, which was interesting. So that's like a minor one that's a lot less significant, but it's like, oh, there was something weird to that. The other one happened the other week. You know that we, me and your sister and brother and some people, we went out on fucking one Saturday night.
yeah.
That Thursday night, I had a dream, which is weird on so many levels, but I dreamed that I was like at some kind of establishment with them, and I thought it was weird because you weren't there, and I don't dream about any of you guys all that often, or like almost at all.
You dream about me.
Almost
like,
never.
Well, okay. Well, if you take out sexually, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Almost never,
Yeah.
but it's always sexually. That's why.
They're always wet dreams.
That's
too.
what I'm saying.
It's always
yeah.
messy.
Wet sexual dreams. Yes.
But no, I almost never dream about you guys at all. Like, you almost never show up. And so I thought it was weird that I was dreaming about them, the two of them, and being at an establishment, because I've never gone anywhere with you guys. Everything we've done is we moved here in COVID. It's only like recently opened up.
Right.
So I've never done anything like that with you guys. And then, so I had that dream, and you weren't there, which was weird. And then, because I probably spent more time with you. And then, sure enough, the next day, fucking Mike's knocking on my door. Oh, hey, we're gonna go to a bar tomorrow night. You want to come? And I'm like, oh yeah, sure. And then that whole thing manifested, and it happened. And it's like, it's weird that I had that dream that night, and then that sort of happened. It kind of came to fruition.
Yeah.
Like there weren't like I wasn't seeing the details. It wasn't like I dreamed the exact moment. Like, oh, I dreamed we're here in this club doing this thing.
Yeah.
But it was the being at an establishment with them that was weird about the dream, and that's why I remembered it. And then it happened. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah. That is weird.
That's very weird.
You know what?
It's a hard thing to make.
But it's not at all like I completely believe you. I completely think that it is something weird, like something weird, unexplainable weird, because honestly, I have it happen quite often, but it's not through dreams.
No?
I'll just have a thought, and then that thought
manifests into something
fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Like I'll have
so it's like a subtle precognition
and
right before it's happening.
And I mean, it's like sometimes it's maybe my brain coming up with something based on some information. But for example, here's a little one. It just happened with my brother. I was busy doing whatever, right? And then I get a message from my niece, and it says hello, and so I message back. I'm like, hey, blah blah, and then a thing, hey, call me. Here's my number. And the first thing I thought of, oh, my brother died. I swear to God, the first thing in my head, it went, oh, my brother died. but I didn't entertain it as a real like thing.
Yeah.
I just went like I thought it immediately, and then I just carried on, right? Because
I always say that that's like some kind of telepathy.
But it was
right?
It's weird that always happens to me.
Or you're a little bit clued into like your, I don't know, some people would call it like your psychic abilities, and so you kind of felt in the air what was happening.
Yeah.
But
I mean, and then I can make sense of that one for me because it would be, I don't really hear from my niece very often. I mean, I've talked to her.
It had to be something significant.
So it had to be something significant. She's asking me to call her. So I can rationalize and say that's what my brain went there. But it happens so often to me that, and I don't even know when to react to it because it will just happen. And then it's like, I'm reactatory to it happening after the fact. I'm like, oh, fuck, I thought about that. And I said that. Or that kind of thing. It happens so often to me that it's become normal for me. But I've just gotten so used to it. But it's like a precognitive type thing, but it never happened in a dream. I've never had a dream.
I would say in that sense, it's more like telepathy, where you're like kind of tapping into the vibe of what's happening, and you're kind of like, okay, this is what's going on. Yeah. I feel like precognitive has to be a little bit longer term, where precognitive would be like, I don't know, like you have a sense of like, oh, the power's going to go out, and then like 30 seconds later the power goes out. Because that's not something, no, maybe you could, I don't know. It's just weird.
Well, what you just said there with the power thing, that's more like what happens to me.
Yeah.
Because I'll think of something a lot of the time, and then it'll happen.
Yeah.
So it's really fucking
like, are you
weird.
Thinking about it, or is it like, just kind of entering your mind what's going to happen? Like
sometimes I've tried to make sense of this before when I've thought about it myself.
That's so weird.
And I've thought maybe, who knows, like something as simple as like a very either a quick like phase shift in time type thing, or even
if you interesting,
or if you want to
segue,
or if you want to break it down even further to say, like, break it down further in the more rational sense to say it's my brain is like almost like what they say deja vu is. So one of the things to say deja vu is that
a misfire
in your brain, that you're losing time for just a split second, and then you see the same thing. So maybe my misfire is happening a little longer, and I've already sort of experienced, but then bang, like I've experienced it, but somehow I've shifted back in my brain to, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To just pre-experiencing it, and then I experience it again. So, yeah.
So sometimes those explanations feel like just more unlikely than being like, you just got some kind of psychic ability. You know what I mean?
But and that's our monkey brain trying to make sense with our monkey brain.
No. I think that's our cultural our cultural zeitgeist to dismiss anything that doesn't have a material explanation. Yeah. At least immediately. Yeah. Maybe there is a material explanation for all psychic abilities and powers and weird sort of things that people have. Like, I described these precognitive. There could easily be some kind of material explanation for it. Mm-hmm. But we don't have a theory to kind of, I mean, like, as far as we know, there is none, and it would certainly have to dramatically expand our understanding of reality. But it's funny you brought up time travel, because I wanted to talk about this movie. Have you seen, there's a movie called The Atom Project on Netflix, starring Ryan Reynolds, and Mark Ruffalo's in it.
Oh, fuck, I want to watch it just for those two.
It's a good movie.
I want to watch it anyway, just because Ryan Reynolds and
Mark Ruffalo is more of like a supporting role. But the whole premise...
Ryan Reynolds is enough. I'd watch anything.
Oh, yeah, it's actually fucking hilarious. Yeah. The whole premise of the movie is like, so Ryan Reynolds is the main character, and he goes back in time and ends up, I guess he's trying to get to 2018, but he ends up in 2022, and then he winds up with his past self, and they go on this crazy adventure, right?
So, hold on. He winds up in 2022?
Yeah.
So, but you said he went back in time.
He was
Oh, is he
to 2022 from like 2050, I think.
Oh, so it's in the future. It takes place in the future, and he goes back in time.
Well, the movie takes place in like 2022.
Sorry, I'm missing. You said he goes back in time in the movie?
Yeah.
He tries to go back to 2018, but he ends up in 2022?
Yeah, and then the movie starts.
Oh, but is the movie supposed to take place in 2050?
No. It takes place in 2022.
Oh, so he never ends up going back in time.
Well, that's kind of how it ends, but I don't want to spoil it. But
oh, right. Okay.
The movie
I'm
is
asking
him
questions that are
in
gonna spoil
the
it?
movie is him in 2022.
Okay.
Ryan Reynolds from the future and Ryan Reynolds as a kid.
Okay.
That-
Well, I don't want I don't want you to
Ye-
blow it for me either, so I'm not going to ask any questions.
But
Carry on.
the general, what I was watching this movie and I was like, I bet you this happened or is happening or something like that is going on, because there's weird things in it. There's this I have it available, I think. Yeah. So in the movie, he goes back in time, obviously, and then I guess so. The main plot of the movie is the main villain. She once. I don't know how there are maybe some plot holes. There are some issues with the way they explain things, but basically the main villain goes back in time, gives herself information from the future, and then and then she's able to use that information to amass like a huge fortune, which she then uses to fund the technology that leads to the development of time travel, so she controls the time travel, basically, right? So it's like her company that created it.
It's kind of like the butterfly effect going on there. It's like, would it actually have happened? It's weird when you start getting into time travel and stuff. Like she goes back and creates it, but then she would invariably
she doesn't create it. She just positions herself to be in control of it.
Yeah, but then she would change the future to where she existed to come back in time in the first place.
Yeah,
so that's where the paradox happens.
It's weird, and they don't fully explain.
Yeah, they can't.
Like, there's one part in the movie where it's like, future Ryan Reynolds and child Ryan Reynolds, after they kind of realize what's going, or after child Ryan Reynolds has figured out, it's like, oh, you're me. He's like, so he asks the question, like, so do you remember this? Right? Because if time was linear and it wasn't anything else, he would remember him coming back in the past and having this experience. Right. And he never answers the question.
That's what I'm saying.
They duck around it. They don't answer that question. He's like, oh, you ask a lot of questions. Like, blah, blah, blah. But,
but that's the problem with time travel movies, because there's so much of that goes on.
And there's a lot of possibility. Because he enters it, is it like a multiverse thing? And he hands it, but be like, oh, we watch too many sci-fi movies or something like that.
Yeah.
He's not. So she goes back in time. She gives herself insider knowledge so that she can control time travel. And then Ryan Reynolds wants to stop that from happening. So he's trying to go back in time and stop that. And so when the future people come back in time to try and stop him, the technology I just thought was really interesting, to where the soldiers are and the ships, they have like this invisibility technology where they can just go invisible, and that was really weird to me, because there was at some recent level, this is somewhat recent,
of stealth or something.
No, well, we do know the government has been experimenting with sort of invisibility stuff.
Yeah, well, it's all started with stealth, right? They're trying to figure different ways of stealth, but it started from not being able to be detected on radar to not being able to be essentially be seen at all, right?
Yeah. But this is a report that was declassified recently. I think
from how long ago?
Yeah, that's the. Hold on. The article was posted.
Why are we mukbanging this time too, man? Jeez, I could mukbang some shit. We should make this a mukbang.
A regular mukbang.
It's a mukbang fucking podcast, so we should make it.
This article by the Daily Mail was posted on April 7th, and this is an exclusive interview. So this information that I'm giving you now came out on April 7th.
Okay. But we don't know from when.
Well, it's an interview with a doctor who worked in the military. He's an ex-CIA officer, and there was a report. They woke up burned or injured. Top brain expert and ex-CIA officer reveals hundreds of military servicemen suffered brain damage or symptoms of the mysterious Havana syndrome, and even death after encountering UFOs. So this kind of came out in tandem with that UFO report that we talked about last week, the 1,500 pages that came out. But this is an interview that the Daily Mail did with the guy, and he's talking about his patients. And it doesn't seem to say exactly. In 2010, he was commissioned to write a paper. So, that still doesn't necessarily explain exactly when. This is probably near term stuff, but either way, that's not that important to what he says at this one point in the article.
I'm fucking tired today. Jeez.
I find it weird that this movie comes out, and recently the idea has been circulating in the UFO community that this phenomenon is, at least in part, humans from the future coming back, and that kind of makes it gives more credibility to that idea when you realize that we do have global tensions increasing, and so if you think that maybe there's some kind of catalyst that they're trying to prevent, and in the last 2 to 3 years, UFO sightings have like gone way up, so there's just more of them coming around now. So that idea has a little bit of legs to it.
We live in the fucking Matrix, man.
We live in something weird. But the computers had the line.
The computers have to figure out how to keep this shit going. So the computers, or the computers, I mean the machines, they have to come back and stop us from annihilating ourselves.
Yeah,
because it ends the Matrix.
I mean, that might be what's going on. But there's a really fucking weird line in this.
I'll tell you though, I wish they'd program me different. I'm fucking tired today.
Oh, here it is. He says, a small percentage of the professor's patients even said they encountered something cloaked that was a human being. Something cloaked that was a human being.
When they say cloaked, I wonder what they mean.
They're talking about invisibility.
Well, I mean, but then how can they tell? Do they see?
Which is an interesting question.
Distortion?
How do they know?
That's what I mean. Do they?
Or if they're saying it was a human being, I think there's a couple angles. Either they're like physically interacting with this thing,
yeah,
and it's like, oh, this is a person, or like, and it's communicating with them maybe, so they're talking to them. It's like, oh, you're a person. It could be that it could also just be aliens that are like very much like us that look like that, or it could be that because it's a weird line, something cloaked that was a human being, like just adding that extra little bit. It's like, it's weird. So it's almost like maybe what's happening is they didn't necessarily know that what they were dealing with was human, but at a different level of government, they know that was a human being. And so that's kind of a way of putting out, like, this cloaking tech is like human technology and a weird way of slipping it out. But it's so weird that's sort of in the mainstream now, and this sort of in the mainstream. This stuff is weird when you call it mainstream, but you get these ideas of this like cloaking technology that's been going around for a while for the UFOs themselves. I don't know if you've ever seen a UFO video that is like someone filming a storm, and then like a lightning bolt strikes and it hits some kind of object that you can see briefly. As the lightning hits it, you see like, oh, there's like a rectangle there,
right?
And then it's
but
gone.
It wasn't visible.
Yeah, it was invisible. But then when the lightning is no longer striking, it goes invisible again. It's like,
it's kind of like the idea to me that I would think that invisibility would be if something were able to be invisible, when it moved, it would distort everything else. So like you would see it because it's distorting.
But also at the same time, like it might not. Maybe,
might not be. But I mean,
like, maybe
that's my small understanding.
I mean, maybe those are the early prototypes that do that. But
it would just seem to
it's so weird that this technology is what they're using, and like the soldiers in their armor and everything, when they come back in time, like they are invisible, or they can go invisible, and it's like, okay, so that's weird that they have this, and now they're talking about time travel at this time that we're now talking about, like UFOs possibly being time travelers from the future. And what does time travel implicate? Well, you are probably going to have people that are going to go back in time and try to give themselves insider information and all that jazz. Just made me think, as I'm watching this movie, I'm like, I bet you this movie happened. I bet you this is fucking like on some level a true story. That's, obviously been played up, but the real story probably has less action scenes and
Sure.
probably a little more boring. But I bet you something like that has been going on or is going on, and it's just, I don't know, somebody in the know knows about it. They're like, that'd be a good movie, so we're gonna make that into a movie.
It's just weird when you start to like really dissect stuff like that. The whole idea that if we can think it, we can create it, or I think therefore I am. People say all these kinds of things. So
Well,
the
do you
idea,
think therefore you are?
well, I mean, maybe. I mean, it's hard to really kind of, wrap your head around that. But the idea, if you take all that into a factor, the idea that we are all creating reality, and so the fact that we are seeing things, or so like, for example, you're making films and stuff about stuff that we're now we're putting that in the ethos, in the ethos, and we're manifesting it because we've put it out there. Somebody's thought it, and now they've made it available to a number of people now.
Interesting thought today or yesterday or something about the imagination touching reality. Because it's like where is the line, right? So we think of the imagination as like not being real, sort of in our minds or whatever. But like when I imagine something and then I create it, at a certain point, the nothingness has touched what we would call reality, and it has created, something has manifested out of that. So, I don't know. It's kind of a deep, weird thought.
No, I don't think so at all.
But,
I mean, realistically, you do it all the time with anything.
Yeah.
With anything you do, like you think about something, you
at a certain point, the imagination becomes real.
If you take an idea and you turn it into a real thing, it doesn't. And a lot of people think that it would dictate outcome. It doesn't dictate outcome at all. It just dictates the fact that you were able to turn it into something. Now, it may not turn into the thing that you imagined it to be, but it still is real.
Imagination touches reality.
Yeah.
And it's like, so where's the line?
Yeah. I would say some people are so close to the line that when they imagine something, they make it a reality to an exact replica of their imagination, or virtually exact.
Yeah.
Where others will be so far away from the line that when they imagine something and they try and make it reality, it's so far from what they imagined, it's not even recognizable. So I think you get all ends of that spectrum. But yeah, I mean, but to my point, if you were to make a movie about something like that, where there's an idea and it's a fairly specific idea, and you put it out to enough people, and enough people are now imagining that as being something that's possible or real.
Yeah.
You've put such a much stronger ability for that to now become a reality, as opposed to it being pie in the sky or just an idea that's just left alone. So the magic and the power of media, essentially, to make something real, is almost immeasurable.
I think was the most likely scenario, given just how weirdly specific this movie gets some details about, like, alleged things about the UFO phenomenon, about, I guess, technology with this invisibility stuff and this time travel. Ross Coulthart is sort of the journalist, like one of the top UFO journalists, and when he was asked, and this is based on what his sources are telling him, when he was asked what he thinks is most likely, in regards to the UFO situation, he said that he believes that they're humans from the future, right? And he says that according to his sources, governments, or at least a government, is working with these future humans. So there's like a sort of contact going on, and a communication.
You think there would be, like, if that were the case, and they were coming back for a reason?
You think they'd be working?
They would work with people.
Yeah, and so
because I don't think they would have the resources if they came back.
Just to it depends on what their technology is, right?
Yeah, and I mean, for them to make a big change.
If it's more or less us, but we created a time machine, they would need they would need to work with people. But
and the fucked up thing about it too is you never know if there's like
yeah.
multiple attempts at something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they do something and they're like, oh, that didn't fucking work out very well. Let's go back again.
Going back, yeah.
Let's keep going back.
Yeah.
It's pretty fucked up shit when you start to get into that.
I was like, oh, is it a multiverse or is it like a linear thing? So they're actually fucking with the timeline as they're doing it. It's like, who the hell knows?
Fucking just blow your mind when
but
you
it's
start
like
to
this
get
idea
into
that
this
this
rabbit hole.
stuff is like pretty mainstream, and then this movie comes along and is like telling a story that based on that. It's like, I bet you somebody in the know, like I bet you this information has trickled down, and somebody at some level was like, I could make a really good movie out of some of these concepts, and then they just went ahead and did it.
Yeah.
And then that's what this movie is. And then some of us who have their head in the conspiracy world a little bit are like, wait a minute, I've seen some of this before. I've heard of some of this stuff before.
Most of the people, I would say most of the people that have their head in the conspiracy world are just people that are fucking curious, right? They're just curious, and they don't want to just accept simple answers to things.
Yeah.
You know, but there's a lot of people, that are the way where they just want to keep their head in the sand and they don't want to know about anything. They're just like, yeah, you're a conspiracy theorist, and they want to dumb it down to that. But
yeah,
and you can dive down this rabbit hole and fucking get lost, right? And then you lose your perspective completely if you keep going and you keep going on these tangents. We talked about this before, like Jordan Peterson, when he goes on a tangent. And the good thing about him is he's brilliant, so he's able to bring it back.
Yeah, it's all connected. It's all related.
But you could and I found myself doing it before, and you've done it too. We've done it on the podcast where you start to go into a thing, and then all of a sudden you're like, I don't know what my original point was. Because you can't get back. You've gone down that rabbit hole too much.
Hold on, we're moving down the street. It's like, hold on, I made too many turns here.
Right.
Yeah.
You're like, I should add some fucking breadcrumbs. Did you keep breadcrums?
Yeah. Do you know what I was talking about?
Do you know what I was talking about? You don't? Oh, fuck. All right. Let's just start over. Yeah. But it's funny when you do that but that's how, like, interesting thought begins. Oh, that was you. It fucking sounds like it's coming from behind me. That's where interesting thought begins. It's when you start to question weird things and everything. You start to delve in. That's when your mind starts to open up to possibilities that you never even really thought. But when you start to try and constrict yourself in the box that we create as humans, where we say, this makes sense, or this is provable, or this is that.
I wouldn't even say as humans. I would say as our current culture, because different cultures at different times are that's very,
fair.
very different.
That's fair to say. But I think, but I think as a whole, humans do try and put things into boxes that we understand, because when you get too far outside of that,
it is about understanding. But currently, like, we're like, no, we're not even going to entertain the idea of like non-physical stuff. And throughout history in many different cultures, like, sure, they're trying to understand things. Yeah. They might just know that they can like do a ritual or do like a dance or have some kind of intent, and then they can, get some rain to end a drought. And so they'll try to understand it. So they'll try to like, oh, it's like this deity doing this for us. And there might be some truth to it. There might be some mythology making it up, but they are trying to make sense of it, but they are open to the non-physical, I guess, maybe is the way to describe it.
I think our problem.
Whereas us, we're not.
Our problem is that we try and eat the elephant one bite. Instead of understanding the limitations that we have. Like, for example, when you look at like the Big Bang. Oh, that's okay. It's a theory, great. And the fact to say it's a theory, or I shouldn't say the fact. That was a stupid sentence to say that. But the idea to say that it's a theory is great. But when you try and make it a fact and you base everything off that, if that one thing is wrong, everything else is wrong.
Well, not to mention the Big Bang as a concept is like the one exception that mainstream science makes to materialism. Yeah. It's like, no, just everything came out of nothing. Yeah, but wait, hold on, that's magic.
Yeah, exactly.
But we're just gonna accept it, and
all these things
all
exist.
This other stuff, we're not gonna
because of that.
Yeah,
like exactly. What the fuck are we talking about? But that's where like you start to you can just end up having everything wrong because you based it on a starting point that is wrong. Mm-hmm. But if you say, hey, here's a theory, and we're gonna experiment everything else we're gonna keep that theory on the back burner and say, okay, that's a possibility, but we're not going to govern anything we do based on that. We're just going to do things, and we're going to take the data that we collect from these experiments that we do, and we're going to
See
like on one hand,
it.
we'll try and see if we can fit it into that theory, but on the other hand, we're just gonna compile it, and we're gonna see what we fucking see. And then if it doesn't fit in boxes, we're just gonna go, okay, well, let's do this other.
We need to change our
let's
theory.
do this
right?
other theory.
That's
this
our
other
problem in
experiment.
our current sort of zeitgeist is they, will refuse to. The data won't match up to the theory, and so the data must be wrong.
Right.
And so
That's
we need to it's kind of it's kind of like if you start with the premise that there is a God, then everything becomes like, oh, that's because of God, or God did that, or whatever, right? And
simplistic way of making just coming up with
right. You
excuses
start with
for
your
everything.
premise, and then everything has to, by definition, prove that premise.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing in science now.
Yeah.
With physics mainly.
Science and physics seemingly used to be about just conducting experiments and seeing what the fuck happens. It's just like that's how like Edison or Einstein or any of these brilliant minds were able to just figure out shit because they didn't have a solid reference to anything. They just kind of went, let's just see. I'm going to experiment, like fucking with the light bulb. How many fucking tries before you end up getting it? Like trial and error. Okay, I'm gonna adjust. But if you had this idea that the light bulb had to work in a certain way or had to fit this exact thing, and you only used that, and you went, I'm just going to keep trying to make it fit in it, you'd be like, you might fucking spend your whole existence trying to make it fit.
It's never going to work,
and it would never work because you were wrong right off the bat.
Yeah.
So it's just funny that we seem to do that, or that now, like you said, science seems to do that now, and we fit into this sort of narrative now, and everything has to fit into that. And if it doesn't, the data's wrong. How the fuck is the data wrong? The data's the data.
Yeah.
You might interpret it wrong. You might look at it and do something wrong with the math or something like that. But realistically, if I conduct this experiment and this thing happens, and I just record that. If
that is just what it is.
It is what it is. I mean, unless I'm recording it incorrectly, which is another factor too, maybe, right? Yeah. If I don't understand what I'm recording, for example, I make a little explosion or something, and I don't realize that it's an explosion. I say an implosion happened or something. Well, that could change the data completely. Yeah, you'd be like, oh, that imploded. Well, it didn't fucking implode. It exploded. You got it wrong. So. Just simple things like that could change it. But when you have this hard, I don't know how to frame this, but this hard box to put everything in. Well, yeah, it's
got to fit into this box.
Right. You now have stifled any exploration or any.
That's why we've been stagnant.
Yeah, I think so too.
In physics. It was string theory became. It became like a corrupt system where the only way to get a job, like as a physicist at any university, with very rare exceptions, was if you were like going to study string theory, and that's where all the funding was. The string theory was like, oh, we're going to be able to create all of these things. Like there were all these promises in like the 70s or the 60s about string theory. It's like, oh, it's going to be this great thing. We're going to be able to build all of this stuff out of this theory. So all the funding went into that, and I guess they got addicted to it, and it kind of became corrupt to the point that that's just where all the funding went, and it became more of a grandfathering in sort of thing, where it's like all the string theorists who had failed to kind of deliver on their promises. Well, they're like old, and they're still in the university, and they're still directing all this money towards themselves, because they had that power and the ability to do so. And so as a result, you didn't get funding going into alternative theories, and everything stagnated. We didn't really have progress because we didn't figure anything out, because string theory is more or less a dud.
That's why I think innovation comes from, I don't think, this seems to be the consensus, that innovation comes from fresh minds. somebody taking a fresh perspective. They
Well,
always
look at it.
they always do that. Somebody who isn't in the box.
Hell, even you just leaving
that?
something for a while and coming back to it is sometimes very helpful.
Yeah,
for solving problems.
absolutely. You get perspective, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh my god, I didn't see it this way
Yeah.
before. I was so,
New connections.
yeah, I was so
yeah.
like pigeon. What's that term?
Pigeonholed.
Pigeonhole. Is that the
I
term?
don't know, something like that.
Something like that, where you're just like, or you got tunnel
Pigeonholed,
vision,
right? Because it's
Or
like
you
a
got
small
tunnel
hole
vision, right?
that a pigeon goes through in
Right.
in a pigeon coop, I think. And
Yeah.
it's very
Or even
narrow.
tunnel
it's like
vision.
It's like you're looking right through. Yeah,
But yeah,
tunnel vision is a good way to put it too.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
all right, well, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
We're both at the point where we're like, I don't know what else to say about that. So maybe we don't say
It's
anything
probably-
about anything anymore.
yeah.
Maybe we just
We'll
end the
just end it.
podcast on that. We ended on something that we like to talk about.
Yes.
Some weird fucking
Really
shit we can't
weird
explain.
fucking stuff. Most things it's hard to explain.
Yeah, no, we should at some point we should try and talk again about the precog stuff. I like that. If we can kind of relate that into some things.
Deeper level.
But maybe the next podcast we actually stay on something a little more
Maybe.
topical.
Maybe I'll have more cognitive experiences to draw on.
But we should probably stay on something a little more topical, something that's actually going on, because we go on these tangents of our weird inner thoughts.
Yeah. I really only had the Elon topic.
Yeah, no, I know.
So
Honestly, my head's been in the sand lately, so I haven't really been keeping up on anything. The only thing I knew about was the whole Shanghai shit with the.
that's just like terrified.
Yeah, exactly. Here we go. We're gonna start a new one. But yeah, all right. Well, hey,
Yeah.
let's plug ourselves.
We're gonna plug ourselves. I don't like where my head just went.
I know. I just left
I
it
don't
at that.
I don't
I wanted
know-
to see what you'd say when I said that.
You can catch that on our OnlyFans, I guess, after the show.
You're not gonna plug me?
Well, if someone pays for it, maybe
Fucking, I'm plugging you, buddy. When we're done this, I'm plugging you. You're gonna assume the position.
Yeah, but I paid for that.
Yeah, that's true. You did. This time I won't hit you as hard.
Okay, that's all I ask.
Yeah, like, follow, comment,
Subscribe, comment, tell us what you think.
all that
If
shit.
you disagree with us.
If you want,
I want to get into with people that disagree about
I fucking love that, man.
the fucking the esoteric stuff more so.
I want to get into a discussion. I want to have somebody comment that actually has some information, like some study on, maybe like astrology or things like that,
Yeah.
where we could
Someone
actually
who really
bounce some
knows.
ideas off of and stuff. I wouldn't mind if
Someone
somebody
that's like in the know and see what they think about
Yeah.
stuff.
we should maybe think about having somebody on that.
Yeah, we gotta solve. Yeah, one of these days, like just like a random Saturday or something, we gotta come and just fucking work out how to do a call-in kind of situation.
Right.
Figure out the technology. I don't think it's hard. I think it's just might take an hour or two of like figuring it out.
Yeah, we'll try and make this podcast a little better, and we'll do a few different things to.
We do want to do interviews. We don't want to bring people on. The only problem is like, who do you bring on, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
we can't like. I was watching. I haven't finished it, but Jordan Peterson interviewed Roger Penrose recently.
Who's he?
Are you familiar with the Penrose stairs?
No.
Yes, you are.
Oh, maybe, but not from you saying that.
Um,
Oh fuck, we were trying to end this, but now we're gonna get into something.
No, it's not. It's not. The Penrose stairs. These things.
Oh yeah.
Roger Penrose. He's a physicist. I think he might have won a Nobel Prize. I don't know. He came up with that. He's got very, very interesting ideas about consciousness and sort of the brain, and it's very, very, very deep. I'd love to talk to Roger Penrose, but he wouldn't give us the time of day.
Reach out to him, man.
It's all
Reach
about
out to him.
finding. Yeah.
Tell him that there's a couple Bud Light Limes in it for him. Maybe some mukbang.
I don't know. He's an old man that can't really lift his head up. I don't know that he's coming out here to have some Bud Light Limes and a muck with us.
Well, you won't know until you
Although
ask.
that
It's
would
always
be
no
an
if you don't
absolute
ask.
Dream come true.
It's always no if you don't ask.
Yeah, we'll invite Jordan Peterson on. Yeah, because he'll.
He's
respond
Canadian,
to us
man.
For sure. He lives near here.
Fucking right. Let's get him.
Yeah,
He'll come.
probably won't.
I know. If I know Jordan, and I know Jordan.
I know Jordan.
I fucking know Jordan.